What's going on YouTube? Welcome to another Season 7 League of Legends Champion Guide. Today, I'm going to be covering top lane Fiora, the Grand Duelist.
I long for a worthy opponent.
So why exactly would you want to learn Fiora? Well, she's got very high damage potential early on, and very high mobility as well. Even if you're a rather mobile champion, Fiora doesn't have too much of an issue catching up to you. Then next, riposte can be completely game-changing. If you're able to consistently block CCs and hit the enemy with your riposte at the same time, you're going to have a very strong game. You also have pretty decent survivability and great sustain as well. Now, she's definitely not the strongest early game champion, but she really scales well into the mid and late game and will be a very big threat. Fiora, however, is a champion with a very high skill cap. You're going to have to know pretty much every champion's kit in order to riposte effectively. You are a champion with rather high cooldowns as well early on, but we do take some CDR runes and either a Black Cleaver or a Trinity Force to help with this issue. Then finally, you do need that great game knowledge. As I said, of course, you do need to know your champion matchups, and of course you need to know when to split push, when to roam, and when to teleport as well. Your teleport ganks can be pretty damn effective, so you do have to be looking out for those. For your masteries, you want to go 18 Ferocity and 12 Resolve, grabbing Fervor of Battle as your keystone mastery. Fiora can get off some really quick attacks with her lunge ability and of course her ease auto attack reset. This will get that Fervor of Battle stacking really nicely and can add a ton of damage in your all-ins. For the rest of your masteries, you pretty much want to focus on getting as much damage as possible and also increasing your sustain. As for alternatives, you could always go Grasp of the Undying, but I do feel like Fervor of Battle is a much stronger choice right now. For your runes, you'll want to go attack damage reds, armor yellows, 6 glyphs of cooldown reduction and 3 glyphs of scaling cooldown reduction, and 3 quints of attack speed. These runes will give us 10% CDR at level 18, and when you do combine it with either a Trinity Force or a Black Cleaver plus either a Maw or a Spirit Visage, you will be CDR capped. As for the rest of your runes, the attack damage just increases your harassment and your last hitting, and of course the attack speed is really nice when combined with Fervor of Battle. Then of course that extra armor is a really nice defensive since you're usually going to be against an AD top laner. For your first summoner spell, you're going to want to grab Flash. It's required so you actually have a reliable escape, and it's great for offensive all-ins since it can be used to hit a hard to reach vital. Teleport is then my favorite second pick since it can give you some really nice map pressure by either split pushing, ganking other lanes, or can just be used to get back to your own lane. Ignite, however, is another great option if you are looking to add some kill pressure in the top lane. It can be great to get yourself snowballing, but Fiora does already have some pretty damn good kill potential, so it's definitely not required. Then finally, you could always take Exhaust as well. It is very viable against high damage top laners like Tryndamere or Yasuo. Your passive is Duelist Dance, which marks vitals and allows you to do some nice true damage. Fiora identifies the vitals of nearby enemy champions marked as an arc around themselves. Vitals take 0.5 seconds to identify and linger for 15 seconds. After a vital is triggered or times out, Fiora identifies a new one on her target. Basic attacks and or damaging abilities against a vital deal 2 plus 4.5% per 100 bonus AD of target's maximum health as bonus true damage, and heal Fiora for 30 to 115 based on level and grant her 20 to 50 bonus movement speed that decays over 1.75 seconds. So this is a big part of Fiora because you want to try to proc these vitals as much as you can to do damage in your trades. This is based on target's maximum health, so it's pretty decent against tanks as well, especially since it's true damage. All you really need to do is watch for these vitals and proc them as much as you can, and keep in mind abilities like your Q and E will proc them. Your Q ability is Lunge, and it gives you some really nice mobility and is great for proccing vitals. When activated, Fiora dashes a short distance in the target direction, then stabs a nearby enemy if one is present, moving into attack range of them. Stabbing an enemy reduces Lunge's cooldown by 60%. The stab deals physical damage, applies on-hit effects, and prioritizes vitals facing Fiora, followed by enemies who would die to the strike, and finally the nearest target, prioritizing champions. So this is a great ability because it gives you some really nice mobility, has a scaling AD bonus ratio, and of course the cooldown goes down 2 seconds every time we put a point in it. When using the ability offensively, you'll want to make sure you're stabbing your enemy so the cooldown is reduced by 60%. It's still really solid used defensively if you are trying to create a gap from somebody or dodge a skill shot. As it states, it does also apply on-hit effects, which is why Fiora is so strong with a Black Cleaver or a Trinity Force. You'll want to be using this throughout duels and team fights, and make sure you're hitting vitals at the same time. Your W is Riposte, and this is a game-changing ability that can stun your opponent. When activated, Fiora poises to strike in the target direction and then enters a defensive stance, parrying all incoming damage and hostile crowd control effects for 0.75 seconds. After the duration, Fiora stabs her sword forward, dealing magic damage to enemies. The first enemy struck is also slowed and crippled by 50% for 1.5 seconds. If Fiora parries at least one immobilizing effect, Fiora stuns the target instead. So that right there is why it's such a game-changing ability, because not only can you stop a crowd control, but you can crowd control the target instead. Some crowd controls are very hard to predict though, which is why she does have a rather high skill cap, and sometimes riposting is hard to do. Basically though, to use this ability effectively, you want to stop either large portions of damage coming in, or of course, a crowd control. If possible, make sure at least one enemy champion's hit so they're either slowed and crippled, or stunned. Your E ability is Blade Work and it adds some nice quick damage and also slows your target. When activated, Fiora's next two basic attacks within 4 seconds gain bonus attack range and 50% bonus attack speed. The first basic attack can never critically strike but slows its target by 30% for 1 second, while the second basic attack is guaranteed to critically strike for bonus critical damage. Blade Work also resets Fiora's auto attack timer. So to use this ability effectively, you'll want to follow it right after a basic attack and cancel its animation so you do 2 really quick attacks in succession. Of course, when you're going in for an all-in, that first attack slowing is also a great way to stick onto your target. Finally, that modified crit damage scales and the cooldown goes down 2 seconds every time we put a point in it, so we're going to want to make sure we get a bunch of points in this ability and max it right behind our Q ability. Now we arrive at your ultimate Grand Challenge, which is fantastic for all-ins. Passively, Duelist's Dance bonus movement speed is increased. When activated, Fiora challenges the target enemy champion for 8 seconds, highlighting their 4 vitals and creates an area around them, granting Duelist's Dance's movement speed while inside. If she triggers at least 1 vital before her target dies, or triggers all 4, she creates a victory zone that heals all allied champions within it for 2 seconds. It's also increased by the vitals you proc. So this is a fantastic way to burst a target down because you're going to have access to all 4 vitals, and if you proc them really quickly, they're going to take a massive amount of damage. Of course, this will also proc that victory zone, and you're going to be healed when you're inside it. So basically, whenever you use this on a target, go in, proc all 4 vitals, and try to kill them. That is literally your main goal of this ultimate. Proc the vitals, trigger it, get that heal zone, and do as much damage as you can. The heal is also based off your bonus AD, so although you are an AD champion, the heal is actually pretty massive. If you get this off in the middle of a team fight, your team is going to get so much sustain, and it's going to be really hard to lose a fight. For your skill order, you first want to put a point into your ultimate whenever you can at 6, 11, and 16. Then for its high mobility and scaling AD damage, we want to max our Q ability first. Then, since it also adds a lot of damage, we want to max our E ability second. Then of course last comes our W ability, Riposte. It's pretty damn solid, but we only need the one early point because it is AP damage based. This ability you may want to consider taking at level 2 depending on the champion you're against if they have a really strong CC and all-in. For your all-in combo, it's all about proccing all 4 vitals as quickly as you can when you ultimate a target. So of course you start by ultimating the target and hitting them with a basic attack. You'll want to cancel your attack animation with your E ability, quickly move to a second vital, and hit them again. At this point, use your Q ability to get to another vital and hit it with your second E, and then auto-attack the last one to proc all 4 and get the victory zone. Fiora has a pretty decent early lane phase, but she can be bullied by a pretty decent amount of champions as well. You'll want to try to poke with your lunge ability as much as you can, and proc the vitals. Fiora does have a pretty hard time taking hits early on, so you'll want to look to get in free damage, and then disengage. If you're against a strong lane bully like Renekton, then you'll want to pay close attention to their cooldowns, and only engage when you know you're not going to be taking a lot of damage back. When you're level 6, then you're going to want to look for an all-in with your Grand Challenge. Try to do it when you're near your own tower so you have a whole lane to chase down. In teamfights, you are classed as a fighter, which means you should be part of the follow-up on the initiation, not the primary initiation, at least in a perfect world anyways. Wait for your initiator to engage, and then try to dive into the backline. Make sure you know what abilities you're going to want to try to riposte before the fight starts. A solid riposte can completely change a teamfight. Generally, you're going to want to try to ground challenge a squishy target in the backline, but if you are behind and you have other strong carries, then you may want to use it on a bruiser in the front line and help bring them down. Now let's look at a couple hard matchups, and first up is Jace. Against Jace, you're going to have to dodge his accelerated shock blast at all costs because if it's landing, it's going to poke you down and take you very, very low. Of course, you can use your Q ability to help you if you do need to. As for Riposte, well, you can use it to either block a shock blast if you're not going to be able to dodge it, or of course his hammer combo when he tries to knock you back, which will stun him. Try to all-in him as soon as he goes into his gun form because he's not going to be able to switch back to his hammer and knock you back. Next here we have Kennen, who's a very safe champion with very good poke damage, which is very frustrating to deal with. You're probably going to want to rush a Hex Drinker and Merc Treads against him just to reduce the damage so you actually can deal with it. For your Riposte, you're going to want to try to parry his passive stun. If you can hit him with your Riposte when this is about to happen, that's the time to go all in. Of course, when his E ability is down and you don't have a bunch of charges on you, this is also a great time to go all in on him. Next here, of course, is Pantheon, who's one of the strongest top lane bullies at the moment. Against him, you're going to want to try to block his leap ability that stuns you, but this is pretty damn hard to do. It is instant. Of course, it's also very viable to parry his spears as well, just to reduce the damage so he does waste his mana. I'd suggest being pretty aggressive from level 1 and try to bring down his mana so he can't spam spears on you all day long. The easiest way to win this lane though is to block that stun and then all in him. Last here is Quinn, who has a very frustrating amount of poke to deal with. The easiest way to win this lane is if you can riposte her vault. This will stun her, which will allow you to all in, but the animation is pretty damn fast, so it's really hard to do. I'd also recommend rushing Ninja Tabbies to reduce her damage. The lane gets a lot easier when you're level 6 and you can all in her because you get a combat ult and she just gets a utility ult. If she starts roaming with it though, which she should, make sure you're calling it out so she doesn't snowball off your team. Alright, let's finish this off with the item build, which usually starts with a Doran's Blade, Health Potion, and Warding Totem, or a Corrupting Potion and a Warding Totem. There's other very viable starts like the Doran's Shield and a Health Potion, or Cloth Armor and a bunch of pots. These ones you'll want to take in very, very hard lanes, but you'll want to go for either the normal start or the sustained start most of the time. Against crap like Pantheon or Quinn though, you're going to want Cloth Armor. For our core build though, we want to go for a Ravenous Hydra and a Black Cleaver. This will give you some really solid damage, a great activate, lifesteal, and a great way to shred some armor. If you were however against a very squishy team, then you may want to not get the Black Cleaver and instead get a Trinity Force. This will add a lot more burst damage, and it's fantastic if you're against a very squishy lineup and you just want to beat up on squishies. For your boot options, you have Ninja Tabbies against a high AD team, Merc Treads against AP and CC heavy teams, and Ionian Boots if you do need 10% CDR. Usually I'll go for some defensive boots here and not get the Ionians because they do have some CDR runes. For your item pool, first is the Bloodthirster. This is a great way to add some more damage, really increase your sustain, and give you a nice defensive shield. Guardian Angel is a fantastic late game item because you can come back to life and it gives you some really nice armor and magic resist. Next here we have a Spirit Visage, which is a really great way of getting 10% more CDR, and it increases your healing, making all the lifesteal from your items fantastic. If you instead wanted to add some more damage, then you could go for a Maw. This is another very nice magic resist item that also gives you that 10% CDR you need to finish off to get capped, yet gives you a really solid defensive shield. For another defensive item, if you did need to break out of CCs, you could get the Mercurial Scimitar. This also adds another nice chunk of damage and lifesteal, making it a fantastic pickup. If you wanted a defensive armor item, then you go for either the Deadman's Plate or a Randuin's. Deadman's Plate is great for its added mobility, and Randuin's is fantastic for reducing crit damage. For my normal full build, I'll take my core, add some Merc Treads, and then a Randuin's, Bloodthirster, and a Spirit Visage. You'll be a pretty damn tanky champion, yet you're going to have a ton of damage and a lot of lifesteal, making you very, very hard to bring down. A Fiora with this build is the type of Fiora that can sweep through a team fight and end up with a Penta. But that, ladies and gentlemen, covers everything I've got for top lane Fiora in Season 7. Don't forget to check out the video description below for a link to all my social medias, and I do stream every night but Tuesday on Twitch now, so that's definitely one you should check out. Also, if you guys did enjoy the video, please like and subscribe, but other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I will see you in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.
If we sail